It's been said that if you love someone, let them go.
He had the perm, he had hip-hop, bravado, but also his own set of weird idiosyncrasies that made him stand out.
If they come back again, they're yours to keep.
She made this huge commitment by leaving her life behind and coming to New York. The lustful relationship that they had, it was exciting. It was moving really quickly.
But what if you aren't the only lover they've lured in?
She was hurt, she was heartbroken, but she also felt like, you know what? I just have to do something else to get his attention.
And the sting of jealousy is so severe, you could kill.
Just imagine how police have now potentially encountered somebody who may be a danger to people.
They see a person lying face down on the ground with blood coming from his head. His whole life flashed before his eyes, and he just threw up right there on the scene.
September 22nd, 2006, Fort Lee, New Jersey. It's a chilly Friday night in this commuter neighborhood just outside of New York City.
Fort Lee, New Jersey, is at the foot of the George Washington Bridge, and it has a lot of restaurants, it has a lot of local spas and eateries for people to just enjoy themselves when they're coming home from work or if they want to hang out on the weekend. And it's literally right there, beautiful views across the Hudson River, looking at New York City.
It is generally a safe place with a very effective police department. But like any community, it has the proximity and the opportunity where somebody who wants to do something bad can find the place to do it.
At approximately 4:40 p.m., the Fort Lee Police Department receives a panicked call from the front desk attendant.
A desk person who's working wee hours of the morning calls the 911 to the Fort Lee Police to say that there's been a shooting.
They're doing their regular shift, and all of a sudden, this man comes downstairs saying to call 911 because someone got shot in room 408.
But before the front desk clerk could gather any more details, the man took off.
The front desk clerk assumed the person ran back up to that room. In his frantic mode, he left the tape on the front desk counter.
The clerk says that he was hesitant to follow him, but he didn't feel much safer in the lobby of the hotel either.
Possible person who was either involved in it or is a victim of the shooting is still in the facility because the front desk clerk said nobody left through the front door.
The 911 operator tells the clerk to stay put and wait for the police because they're on the way.
The Fort Lee Police Department is approximately 3/4 of a mile or a mile away from this location. I dare say they were there very, very quickly.
The police are trying to keep the clerk calm. They ask him if he can tell them anything about the man that's staying in room 408.
The clerk says all he knows is that the room is registered to a man named Alan Plowden. Alan Plowden and David Taylor, both Florida natives, carved a complex mortgage and mail fraud scheme, manipulated the financial system to siphon off massive sums of money, crafting a life of luxury from ill-gotten gains.
So David and Alan knew each other going back for many years. They lived in and scammed people in Miami and Atlanta.
David and Alan's criminal partnership spanned many years, thriving in the shadows in the vibrant scenes of Miami and Atlanta, where they perfected their craft and deception and lived off the riches of their elaborate schemes. Their operation amassed a fortune, peaking with a staggering $1.4 million from a single fraudulent transaction.
David was in New York with bags of money, literally, and he was looking to have that type of lifestyle in the New York City scene.
As the cash flowed, their descent into the criminal abyss deepened, setting the stage for a tragic chain of events. The moment they arrive, Fort Lee police head straight for Alan Plowden's room, number 408, but not without putting a careful plan in play first.
The officers are walking into this scene as if there is an active shooter on site. So they have their guns drawn already, and they're making their way up to the 4th floor.
They get to the 4th floor without a problem, but as soon as they were approaching room 408, they were surprised by a man who was running out the room shirtless.
Rather than the person come towards them, he runs and goes back into a room. Police have now potentially encountered somebody who may be a danger to people in the hotel, to the police, to people who otherwise might be in the room. They're on high alert.
So now they're bringing out more tactic equipment, the shields, the battering ram, and they're making their way closer to that front door. And when they get there, they're trying to talk to the people who are on the other side, but they really couldn't make out who was speaking towards them.
Officers place a call to room 408. To their surprise, a woman answers the phone.
She identifies herself as Jennifer Nettles, and at that point, police are thinking this might be a hostage situation.
She's mentioned that somebody has been shot. She mentions the word gun. Police at that point don't know if the gunman or the gun person is in the room, don't know if there's a gun, and don't know if she herself is in some sort of jeopardy.
Eventually, she explains that it's herself in the room, the gentleman that the officer saw go back inside the room, Alan Plowden, and then there's a person who was shot that's on the floor, David Taylor, who's friends with Alan Plowden.
Now, of course, hearing that somebody is injured inside the room, police are hoping that they can get in there and, do something to save this individual. But in order to do that, they have to get inside the room.
Police have to make instant judgments as to what they do. Are they walking into a trap, or in fact, are they going in to relieve and help people who otherwise might be victims of a crime?
Fort Lee police have been called to a local Holiday Inn, where a man has reportedly been shot inside room 408. But with no idea where the gunman could be now, officers must handle the situation with extreme caution.
So their first concern is safety, okay? Are they themselves safe? They know there's been some sort of a shooting. They want to make sure that they themselves are not walking into a trap.
Although Jennifer is telling the negotiator that the people in the room are who they are, the officers really truly don't know if this is true.
They also have a duty. And if somebody is shot inside the room, they're gonna need medical attention. And with an injury like that, every second counts.
So they're talking to her and they're explaining to her to relay information to Alan for him to step out. And as soon as he steps out, he had a backpack on his back and wearing shorts. The officers then handcuffed him, put him on the ground. They check him for any weapons that are possibly on him.
And it seems that his appearance in that less than full garb can assure them that he doesn't have a gun in a pocket and a jacket in some way secreted from them.
Still, he does have a backpack. When police search the bag, they don't find a weapon, but potentially a motive. It's a scenario that would certainly make sense, given the hotel's location.
Between here and the George Washington Bridge into Upper Manhattan and to further up through New England is a major drug corridor. To the George Washington Bridge, probably the most traveled bridge in the United States. Several different roadways, including Route 95, the main corridor between north and south in the United States along the eastern seaboard, and Route 80, which basically starts a mile or two from here, will take you all the way to California. That proximity is good for tourists, but it also gives access to those who think ill, who can use these locations for criminality. Lo and behold, the mystery continues by opening the bag, and now you find $30,000. It's not what's usually in a person's backpack. It's cash, it's a big amount. There must be a drug deal that has had to have gone on or didn't go on or went bad.
But if this was a drug deal gone wrong, police are left wondering what the woman, Jennifer, had to do with it.
Jennifer comes out and she only has her underwear on.
The obvious might be that there might be some trade that has been going on in that particular, whether simply for frivolity, for fun, or for money.
The officers check her, obviously, for any other types of weapons, and they also handcuff her as well.
Alan and Jennifer are transported to a police cruiser downstairs to await further questioning. Meanwhile, police go searching for their room's third occupant, the shooting victim, David Taylor.
Officers then enter in the hotel room in room 408, and they see a person lying face down on the ground with blood coming from his head.
Clearly, when they see the individual, while they're sympathetic and hopeful that the person may still be able to be rendered medical attention, it becomes clear from the blood, from the failure to move, from a touch, that the person has been shot and killed.
The room itself looked like it was ransacked, like there might have been some type of scuffle. The sheets are out of place. The mattress is flipped over. There's a shirt that's torn apart. There was just clearly something that happened here prior to the shooting.
The man doesn't have any ID on him. He appears to be wearing pajamas, but what he does have on him is a key card to a room on the second floor.
They find out that David was actually also a guest in the hotel as well and was staying on the second floor. So the officers go down to the second floor hotel room.
They go in a room and they find a startled young lady wondering what has occurred. Here comes the next puzzle piece. What is she doing in the room?
The woman's name is Mercedes Cantu. She tells police she was called up earlier that night by the shooting victim, David Taylor, who was visiting from Miami for the week.
While David was up here in New York, David had called Mercedes to hang out, go shopping, to just chill. And he told Mercedes that he had a friend in town, Alan Plowden, and he wanted to know if she had any friends for the both of them to hang out with. Mercedes then told David about her friend Jennifer Nettles. They both were sex workers.
There was a night of enjoyment, entertainment.
As the night goes on, they go to their own separate quarters. They have hotel rooms set up for them. David on the second floor, Alan on the fourth floor.
But not long after Mercedes and David got back to the room, David gets a text message, and he tells Mercedes that he has to, go check on something in room 408. That was the last time that Mercedes saw David.
Police bring Jennifer Nettles and Alan Plowden into the station for questioning.
Police have to find out what's going on. They have to be able to speak to people who will provide them information, both as evidence and a lead to where the suspect or suspects may in fact be.
They're really honing in on Jennifer's account because she was in the room where David was shot.
What they'll do is, of course, they'll separate the people so you can get their whole version of what happened.
Jennifer's story starts off a lot like Mercedes' story. They were headed out for a night on the town, and then when they came back to the hotel, they each went off to their own rooms.
Jennifer says that after they were in the hotel room and they were sleeping, Alan gets 2 phone calls.
That's when the night took a dangerous turn.
She gets up to go to the bathroom. It's the middle of the night, and there's a knock on the door. When she goes to answer the door, there's a man and a woman on the other side.
The unexpected visitors tell Jennifer they're there to see a man named Jay. Convinced they have the wrong room, Jennifer tries to close the door.
The woman on the other side puts her foot in the middle of the door to prevent it from closing, and then the gentleman on the other side has a handgun that's pointing in her face.
You see this instrument of death right in front of you. So now, what might have been the uncertainty or surprise that somebody's got a foot in their door has now quadrupled in terms of fear factor.
So she lets the door open, and as they walk inside, Jennifer gets shoved into the bathroom with that woman. And that woman starts to duct tape her mouth, her hands. She bounds her to keep quiet, and she threatens her before leaving the bathroom and going into the room itself. All she can hear on the other side of the door is scuffling and noise and rustling, and Jennifer starts to take note of the tone of voices that she's hearing through the walls, and it seemed like the woman knew Alan.
Fort Lee police are meeting with Jennifer Nettles, a witness to the hotel shooting of David Taylor. Jennifer claims she was trapped and bound with duct tape in the bathroom of his friend Alan's hotel room after the two suspects barged in.
Can you imagine the fear in Jennifer? Now, she's just listening to what's going on. Alan is in the middle of it with a gun in his face.
And then a gun goes off, and people leave the hotel room. What Jennifer's hearing through the wall is not exactly going to help in the investigation. They want to hear more of what happened when they interacted with Alan.
Across the hall, police sit down with the second hotel witness, Alan Plowden.
Alan tells investigators that he was sleeping while Jennifer was in the bathroom and all the other commotion was going on.
When he finally does wake up, Alan confirms Jennifer's hunch. He hears the voice of a woman that he recognizes.
He recognizes this voice, somebody he has had a relationship with, who he has spent time with, and who he has spoken to. It's somebody he knows as Gina Conway.
Gina Conway was a 29-year-old exotic dancer who grew up in North Carolina's Piedmont region.
She also had ties in Baltimore County, Maryland. Her mom lived in Baltimore, remarried, and her family was still living in North Carolina. So she went back and forth a lot between those two cities. In the early 2000s, Gina would mostly spend her time in North Carolina, not only because of family, but she had a boyfriend of 10 years that still lived back home. So she was really there a lot. And during that time, hip-hop was coming through with some new flavor, and she was into, and so was her boyfriend, a group called Dipset.
Dipset, which the sort of core group is Cameron, Jim Jones, Joel Santana, and then, you have a lot of other Hell Rel, J.R. Ryder, Freaky Zeke.
And there was a lot of people that was in this crew that they were able to make a lot of hit records that are still known to this day.
When Gina learned that Dipset was coming through town, she jumped at the chance to get concert tickets with her boyfriend. After the show, she managed to get them invited backstage.
Gina's that kind of person that she doesn't have a hard time getting along with people. She has that charisma. She's able to talk her way into any kind of door. So while Gina was backstage with her boyfriend, she happens to meet one of those entourage members, Charlie Wingate, AKA Max Bigavelli, AKA Max B.
Max B had that same mix of sort of classic New York hip hop, bravado, but also his own set of weird idiosyncrasies that made him stand out. He had perm, he had sort of straight up R&B songs. He's a charming guy. Every project he's released in his career has at least a few love songs. He's always talked about sort of emotional vulnerability being the hallmark of the music he makes, and a lot of that is very flirtatious and romantic.
Max B giving her any type of attention really did intrigue her to the point where she might have forgot she was there with her boyfriend. After the concert, Max B and Gina exchanged phone numbers.
After weeks of exchanging texts and calls, Gina was finally ready to ditch her life in North Carolina for a future with this alluring new man.
So Gina comes up to New York, and she's living with Charlie in his apartment. He's in the studio, he's doing shows at night, he's touring, and Gina's working as an exotic dancer at the Sin City nightclub. The lustful relationship that Gina and Max had, it was exciting. It was moving really quickly.
But a relationship with the rising hip-hop artist also came with a lot of heartache.
2 months after Max and Gina realize that this relationship isn't working and Gina moves back home, Max starts blowing her phone up. Baby, come back kind of conversations.
She came back to New York, and there was some controversy around his having impregnated a woman.
Obviously, Gina's gonna be pissed. Why are you wooing me? Why are you trying to make me feel like I'm the only woman when you have a whole situation and a whole baby on the way? So while Gina's trying to figure out everything, thankfully, she gets her job back at Sin City. She was hurt, she was heartbroken, but she also felt like, you know what? If he cared about me enough to bring me back here after I left already, then I just have to do something else to get his attention. Days prior to the robbery, she saw David and she saw Alan at the club and hung out with them, and they wanted to hang out with her because she just had a way with them.
In the last few days, Alan and David had enjoyed several more outings with Gina.
They went out after that first meetup and hung out where they went shopping at a mall in Bergen County, bought a lot of expensive stuff, and she had a great time with them, and they had a great time with her. And they wanted to hang out with her even more times after that.
But never would Alan have thought the next time he saw Gina, she'd be robbing him.
Alan tells investigators he's thinking he might be dreaming because he's hearing Gina's voice in this hotel room, but when he opens his eyes, he has a gun in his face. And a man who's holding the gun, he doesn't recognize him, but he also notices that the gunman has a scar on his cheek. The guy with the gun is asking him, where's the money at? And he's like, what money? He gets hit in the face. Gina's starting to tie him up with the tape that she used to tie up Jennifer, puts the duct tape around his face, his mouth, his eyes, his hands, and they keep asking him, where's the money? He tells them that he has $700 underneath the mattress. So they flip the mattress and they're still telling him that, where's the rest of the money?
It's a dynamic situation. And what must be going through his head is he's trying to figure out, somebody knows there's money here. Who would know?
Based on what Alan is telling law enforcement, he had all the money that he knew these robbers were looking for, but Alan knew that he needed to hide his valuables even before this whole situation happened because he has a strange woman in his room.
Still, Alan knew that these robbers weren't leaving until they got what they wanted. So he told them that the money was hidden away in his friend's room.
So the gunman tells him, call your friend.
He gets on the phone with David, who's on the second floor, and tells David in a weird way that he is in trouble, but he needs him to come upstairs.
David coming upstairs may just simply think that it's a physical confrontation, fist on fist, mano a mano. You don't bring fists to a gunfight. And what happens is, he now is confronted by and sees the presence of a gun.
And as soon as the door opens, the gunman and David, they start to scuffle. Alan is laying on the ground. He tells investigators that his friend David and this gunman scuffle, and his friend gets shot in the head. The guy and Gina are grabbing whatever that they can find in the room, and then they leave the hotel room. Alan tells investigators that after the gunman and Gina left the hotel room, he goes to Jennifer in the bathroom to get her out of her own restraints.
Alan then ran downstairs to try to catch Gina and her accomplice before they could get away.
But he actually catches up with Gina, and he hits her. She somehow gets away from him and darts out of the hotel. The guy she came with was already in the taxi cab, and they took off.
Gina knows that Alan can recognize her from the crime scene, so she probably wants to get as far away from the crime scene as possible. So now you have a suspect on the run and no idea how to find her.
The survivor of a Fort Lee hotel robbery turned murder has just identified a viable suspect in the case. But so far, police have no leads on where 29-year-old Gina Conway could have fled from there.
As investigators are trying to figure out where's Gina, who she was with in this cab, developments start to come in.
Hotels were among the first places to really have cameras because they have to protect themselves from their own liability. Stuff happening at a hotel.
They weren't everywhere as you see it these days. So the police were able to at least get the license plate and the cab numbers that were called to chauffeur Gina and whoever else around that night. And they were able to track down the cab driver.
Investigators asked the cab driver what he remembers from the night he drove Gina and her companion to the hotel.
You find the cab driver. You find the cab driver's location. You find the log that he might have. And with that, now you've got names.
The driver tells them that he picked up Kelvin Learnham, and that person told him where to go. It was different locations. They stopped at a gas station and ended up at different Holiday Inn locations until they found the right one on Route 4.
He says that when they finally got to the right hotel, they asked him to wait for them. And Gina said, they'd only be a few minutes.
The cabbie said that he wound up waiting about an hour, and when they emerged from the hotel, the guy had changed his clothes, and they were both carrying bags. The man gave him an address back in Harlem, and that's where he dropped both of the passengers off.
So now investigators have Gina Conway and they have Kelvin Leardom, who are the two people inside the taxi cab that was driving around.
But when police trace the Harlem address back to a public basketball court, it seems like a dead end, until they realize the address is just blocks from another location that's come up in their investigation.
Police then start doing more investigating, and they find the Sin City address to where Gina was working.
Police drop in on the club where Alan Plowden told them he met Gina just a few days earlier. It's there they uncover another valuable clue.
Now, police are looking through her records from the club, and they find that she's listed an unknown address as her place of residence. This isn't the hotel address, it isn't a family address. I mean, it's not even her ex-boyfriend Max B's address. But it does turn out to be the address of a coworker, Turon Golston.
According to co-workers, Turon is a bouncer for the club. Gina saw him like a big brother, someone she could confide in, someone who would protect her.
Police immediately head for Turon's address with a warrant in hand. But when they arrive, there's no sign of Gina, but there's plenty more of interest.
They found a lot of things that were taken out of the hotel. They found Alan's cell phone inside of Turon's apartment, so they got a subpoena for that.
The police also find Alan's clothes and laptop in Turon's apartment.
Can you imagine the surprise when Mr. Golston is told by the police that evidence taken from the scene of a murder is now found in his house, that he seemingly had nothing to do with? Of course, he's going to say where he got it. Gina brought it over to him.
Turon doesn't seem to have any information about the items that are in his house. And he's missing one key piece of evidence attributed to the shooter, a scar on his cheek. It was clear that Gina had been here recently. Now police just needed to wait for her to come back.
Fort Lee police are hot on the trail of a suspect in the shooting death of David Taylor inside a local hotel. But 6 days after the crime, Gina Conway and her accomplice remain in the wind.
They're looking for her because now we have a suspect on the loose, if you will.
Law enforcement can get a communications data warrant to pinpoint where somebody might have been at a given hour at a given time. So for example, if the phone pings for a location in Fort Lee at 4 o'clock in the morning on the date in question, you got the phone there.
Armed with Gina's phone number from her personnel file, police are able to trace her mobile device to a location in Harlem.
And they do pick her up not too far away at a subway station in Harlem.
She was living life on the run for a period of time. Life on the run because she was either witness or participating in something serious or something that she might have thought was far different than what she had originally planned to do.
But by the time police bring her back to the station, Gina is ready to come clean.
She gets into the precinct, and investigators are kind of shocked because she's just willing to tell them anything. She didn't ask for a lawyer, and she just starts talking.
Gina tells police that it all started when she found out her boyfriend was having a baby with another woman.
It's one of those things that you're like, okay, I'm here. What do I need to do to make sure that he knows that I should be the only person he's focusing all his time and energy on? And Gina is just in fight or flight mode. She's just trying to figure it out while also her feelings are hurt.
So I think it's logical that I think maybe wanted to make him a little bit jealous.
As the investigators are talking to Gina, she tells them she told her boyfriend Max B about the shopping spree that she went on with David and Alan. She was bragging to Max to make him jealous, to show that other men are showing her attention. Two big ballers who are taking her shopping. She thought this was gonna entice him to say, let me step up and be a better boyfriend to her.
It has an opposite effect. He sees it potentially as opportunity. We'll go get him. We'll see if we can make a fast rip, get the money from what sounds to me that Wingate thought was an easy mark.
The jealous boyfriend, Max B, is coming up with this whole plan to rob these two dudes who just took his girlfriend out and showed her a good time. And at that moment, Gina doesn't stop him from this plan, according to what she's telling the investigators. She kind of leans into it like, wow, he's including me in something that we can do together.
With Max B's encouragement, Gina makes a date with David and Alan on the morning of September 22nd.
They had a fun outing, but David and Alan had to cut things short with Gina because they were getting ready to hang out with Jennifer and Mercedes. So as she prepared to head out, Gina asked to borrow Alan's room key to use the restroom before she left. Then she walked out of the hotel without returning the key.
Gina tells investigators that they all met at the park to really plot out this plan. It was herself, Max B, as well as Kelvin, his stepbrother. Gina had that room key to get access to Alan's room where the money, she believed, was. And she also knew that Alan was gonna be out with David at a nightclub with these two young ladies. So if once they get in the room, they can clean it up, get out. They won't even know it was Gina or anybody involved with getting into their room. And as they're being sent off that night in the taxi cab that Max calls to have this whole thing happen, he tells Gina in a reassuring manner that if you do this, you're my girl, you're the one. Almost like a proposal in some kind of way. And she knew she had to make this plan work in order for her to get that goal.
But when they arrive that night, Gina says things didn't go according to plan.
When Gina got to the hotel, she went to room 408 and the room key didn't work. Unbeknownst to her, Alan had to change in the room keys earlier that day because it just didn't work for him. So she decided to knock at the door, and that's when Jennifer answered.
She starts to tell that, in fact, what she thought that there would be a ripoff of these people now evolved into something far, far more dangerous.
Up until that point, Gina's feeling kind of angsty because they're not finding the right hotel, the room key isn't working, and as that's happening, she sees that Kelvin has a gun and duct tape on him. It's not a part of the plan.
Kelvin holds the gun up to Alan's head and demands the money. That's when Alan offers them the $700 hidden under his mattress.
Gina's aware that he has a suitcase or a book bag that he walks around with a lot of money. And he's still saying, I don't have the money, but then he says that his friend downstairs has it.
By this point, they had already come too far, and Gina felt like she couldn't back down. She tried to focus on the plan of getting the room key from David so that they can go down to the second floor to get the money. But then the shot was fired as she watched her new friend David fall dead to the ground. They ran, headed for the second floor as fast as they could, but they did not count on Alan breaking free and running after them. As he followed them into the hall, they had no choice but to abort the mission.
Gina tells investigators that she took the $700 over to Charlie's sister-in-law's house, and while they were there, he had promised her that he would take care of her and that he was sorry about what happened.
As police sit across from the tearful suspect, they can see that Gina is sorry too. Nevertheless, on this day, Gina was charged with manslaughter.
That's when police offered Gina a deal. Turn in your accomplices and we'll make things easier for you. But Gina had already done so much for Max B. Was she really capable of turning against him and his stepbrother?
Gina Conway has just confessed to her part in the robbery and murder of David Taylor inside a Fort Lee hotel room. Now, police are eager to get her boyfriend Max B and his stepbrother, Kelvin Leardam, also behind bars.
They subpoena everybody's cell phone that they had a suspicion of being a part of this crime, Kelvin's especially as well. And so at that point, the police are putting 2 and 2 together. Cell phone towers are pinging. It shows that Gina, Kelvin, and Max and the taxi cab driver were at that gas station at the time that she said they were. And it also shows that Alan, Gina were at the hotel with Kelvin all at the same time when the robbery did occur.
Coupled with Alan Plowden's statement about the shooter having a scar, police are able to arrest Kelvin Learden.
Police then apprehend Charlie Wingate, and he is charged with murder. And when they talk to him, he's not giving them anything. He's tight-lipped, doesn't even say that he knows anybody involved in this case.
Without anything directly tying Max B to the crime scene, police know his conviction hinges on Gina's cooperation.
It's a homicide, it's a robbery, it's a felony murder. Those type of ties, once you are acting in concert, you can equally get the same amount as somebody who pulled the trigger. Kelvin and Max B were facing life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Cooperators, people who are involved in the crime, who ultimately agree to testify on behalf of the state. The strength or the weakness of that witness is often measured. Gina's story matched Plowden's story, matched Jennifer's story, without them being any connection really between them that would lend to them telling and making up a story together.
Because Gina was able to dime out her boyfriend and Kelvin, who was the shooter in this whole entire case, she was able to negotiate a lesser sentence of only 15 years flat.
On June 9, 2009, Max B. and Kelvin Learden are found guilty of felony murder, armed robbery, and conspiracy.
They were convicted of each and every one of the crimes, which included weapons, which included a kidnapping that they factored into, or coercion that they held them in. A judge could very well, and did in this set of circumstances, sentence them consistent with their roles. Gina was a facilitator. Wingate was the mastermind, but the greatest damage was done by the shooter.
Kelvin received a maximum life sentence, and Max B was sentenced to a very extensive sentence of over 50 years.
Almost immediately, the verdict against Max B ignites an uproar in the hip-hop community.
People are looking at it as, oh, this man's entire life. So that naturally sent shockwaves within hip-hop. There was also a perception that the severity of his sentence was not, to some people, reflective of his level of involvement in the crime in question.
There's this whole Free Max B movement that has percolated after he was sentenced, and it's continued throughout the years.
The movement has led to moderate successes.
Kelvin tried his attempt to get a reduced sentence. That didn't work. Gina tried to get her sentence reduced, even though she already had a negotiated plea. That was rejected as well. Max B was the only person whose post-conviction review ended where there was a reduced sentence.
Max B gets his conviction lowered to 20 years. He is set to be released in 2025.
When he got his sentence reduced, hip-hop fans of his and others felt there's gonna be a future of Max B to come as soon as he gets out.
He's released music through a few different sort of smaller independent labels. He doesn't talk a ton about exactly how he records the music, the new music. There's lots of rappers who, while incarcerated, have recorded songs over a phone in prison, and it's not clear if that's what Max is doing. He doesn't really address the case that explicitly. He's done a lot of love songs. He's maintained his innocence, maintained sort of a positive outlook on, when I get out, things are gonna be great.
Gina thought that he really wanted to be with her, but his intentions, as she saw that first day, were not genuine. I wish that Gina packed her bags and went back home to where her family was and try to win back that gentleman that was with her for 10 years so that she could have had a different outcome at life. Unfortunately, she wasted 15 years behind bars because of a man that she thought was for her, and she did all this for her man that was not ever really her man.
A firm grasp is good when you're climbing a mountain or shaking hands with a stranger. But trying to hold onto a love that is slipping away will only send you both crashing over the edge. There's nothing quite as special as falling in love for the very first time.
That bond was magical. I really never seen my sister be that comfortable with anybody else besides him.
She would talk about him. You could tell that she loved him.
But no love or person is perfect.
We may love a person, but we see their imperfections, and most people can't help but try to fix them.
She would say, well, at least if I help him, he'll be a better person and stuff, because he's a good-hearted person, Mama.
She tried to save him by literally taking him up out of it.
What happens when that person pushes back?
No one likes to be told what to do, so sometimes there are feelings of anger and resentment, and those emotions can bubble over.
And when that happens, there can be disastrous consequences for everyone involved.
A lot of police still out here trying to figure out what happened. What we do know right now, 4 people were shot, 2 are dead. Their bodies are actually still out here as police work this scene.
May 17th, 2012, Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville is a beautiful place to me. There's a lot of wonderful people, but at the same time, like many cities across the United States, it has its challenges.
I think there's a lot of disparities in Louisville. We still have a very segregated city in the fact that the West End and the East End have very different demographics, and I think that impacts things.
For many years, we have struggled with the violent crime issues here.
32nd and Greenwood is a place that there are, unfortunately, shootings on a regular basis.
And this day is no different. Shortly after 1 p.m., gunfire erupts.
911, I've heard you, Johnson. What's your emergency?
Location of the emergency.
Someone's been shot. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky on 26th.
Okay, is it a shooting, ma'am?
Not breathing.
Okay, ma'am.
911 is flooded with calls reporting a shootout.
Numerous police officers are dispatched to the corner of 32nd Street and Garland. When they arrive, they find multiple victims, 2 who appear to be deceased. They really don't know who the victims are and what happened, so they set up a perimeter and begin the investigation.
Police scanners are quickly filled with reports of the shooting, attracting the attention of reporters, including Jamie Weiss.
I, on that day, was actually working on a different story. We weren't having much luck. So when the call came out on the scanners about a shooting, we were the crew that was assigned to go to that scene and find out what was going on. I think they may have told me that there were several people involved, but outside of that, when you hear shooting, you go and you don't really ask any more questions until you get there and figure out what's going on.
When Jamie arrives on the scene, she is startled by the number of bystanders.
There were a lot of people out. It almost seemed like a large majority of the neighborhood was out there, and it was of every age. There were children out there, there were adults out there, a large crowd, which was really unusual.
After talking to police officers, Jamie goes live to report numerous victims.
We actually just spoke with police, Dawn, to try and clarify exactly what happened. Let me show you the scene here. 32nd between Greenwood Avenue and Kentucky. A lot of police still out here trying to figure out what happened. What we do know right now, 4 people were shot at.
Towards the end of that live report, there was a woman who had shown up, and she was very emotional. She was making a lot of noise. I referenced that in my report. I was not able to make out what she was saying. I honestly was focused on doing my report and blocking that out, honestly, because it was so loud. But I know that she was being held back by somebody else and kind of waving her hands in the air. We went off the air. We were recording right in front of our truck, so we were only a few steps away from it. The woman that had been screaming stopped screaming, as far as I was aware, and we couldn't see her anymore.
Jamie and her cameraman reached their truck and prepared to record some video of the scene.
The photographer I was working with was getting his camera ready to shoot video, and the next thing I heard were some pops.
Startled, she gathers her senses and jumps into the back of the van for cover.
I was terrified when I realized they were shots. I didn't know where they were coming from. I didn't know if bullets were gonna come through the van. I looked up and there were police running past the doors of our truck that were open with their guns drawn. It was complete chaos. We did not feel safe. We didn't know what was going on. So I could see people in the field next to us getting down on the ground, and there were police officers screaming.
Jamie quickly shifts back into reporter mode and chases down witnesses and police officers. She learns the shooting is connected to the woman who was screaming during her news report.
It's just a horrific tragedy for the community. 6 people shot in one day. And police have no idea what in the world is going on. Who are the victims and why have they been shot?
Two shootings in the same Louisville neighborhood, less than 90 minutes apart, have police perplexed and residents stunned.
Police are still processing one scene, trying to find out who the victims are and who shot who when another shooting breaks out. And everyone is wondering, are the shootings connected or is it just a random act of violence?
When you look at that footage, and I did, and others have, it's beyond heartbreaking because you knew media was down there. You knew law enforcement was down there. And it's the unthinkable that happened, to be quite frank with you, that you couldn't imagine that that could occur in that fashion.
Relatives of the victims quickly hear about the shootings. For Jacqueline Goldsmith, it's a call no mother wants to get.
That day, May 17th, 2012, I see my girlfriend in the store. She's at the store too, and we're talking. And I get the call that something's went down on 32nd with Chitara, and we left. The next thing I know is I call my husband and tell him what's going on.
Desperate to learn what has happened to her 24-year-old daughter, Chitara, Jackie and her friend race to the emergency room.
Well, as we're driving to the hospital, I'm telling my girlfriend, my baby might be dead and all of that. And she says, oh, you don't know that yet, Jackie. We got to get to the hospital.
But at the hospital, no one will tell Jackie what has happened.
They wouldn't give me no information for a while. They wouldn't let me see her or anything. It was rough. And all I could think about was, is my daughter alive? Is she going to make it?
Chitara Goldsmith was born in 1994 in Dayton, Ohio, the youngest of Jacqueline Goldsmith's 3 children.
I was 18 when I met Chitara's father. I was living in Dayton with my auntie, Joyce. Chitara's father and I, we ended up moving to the projects in Dayton because that was the place that we could afford to live, you know. So after a few years, my husband got involved with a bunch of stuff that was going on out there, and so it wasn't a good environment for my children. So I left my husband and brought them back here to Louisville, Kentucky.
Chitara's childhood was a happy one, and her church family played a central role.
She used to love the church. And when she was a little girl, she used to sing in the choir and stuff. I think of things like that, when she was really happy.
When we was young, my sister used to be what they call a sunbeam. That's how she started out. She started out with a little bitty kid that was singing. Then she graduated to the choir. Any kind of program that could get us outside of the hood, my mother pushed us toward it.
I was a single parent, and I was raising Chitara, Morris, and Christopher by myself. Being that I'm a nurse, I used to work 2nd and 3rd shift, and my roommate would stay at home and watch my kids. But, you know, you don't make a lot of money, so you have to live where you can afford to live.
Like many residents of poor neighborhoods, Jackie's children had a front row seat to crime and violence.
When my daughter Chitara and my son Morris were little, they were at home. They were looking out the window and they saw some terrible things which would affect anybody.
So me and my sister, we were about, I have to say, about 5 or 6 years old. She used to sit out and just watch them people. She used to watch them play dice. And there was an incident one night. I'm laying in the bed. My sister comes and I was asleep. She wakes me up. Brother, come here. I come to the window, and she's like, somebody just got shot. So me and her sit in the window, and we literally looking at the window, peeping down, and I can see the guy laid out. I really think that impacted her very negatively. I think it like stifled her vision of the world, seeing somebody get taken so easily, and her being so young, it changes how you look at things. That was a very pivotal moment, because I think that's the moment where she changed, where her outlook on life, period, changed.
Despite her early brushes with violence, Shatara was determined to make the most out of her life.
Shatara attended Jefferson Community College. I think she was going for business administration. She had a job at Kroger's. She was in the bakery.
In early 2012, Shatara began dating 22-year-old Craig Bland Jr.
And he was a nice little young man. She brought him to the house. He was very respectful and everything.
The first time I met Craig, it was on Christmas. It was on a Christmas day, and my sister called us and stuff. She's telling us like, yeah, I'm bringing my boyfriend through, right? So we like, man, who is this guy? You know what I'm saying? He had a quiet demeanor, but I didn't feel any bad vibes from him. He was just chill. We ended up eating and chilling. Man, it was a good day. He was a good guy.
Shatara told me that she liked him and she was trying to help Craig because, you know, he didn't have no mother and father. So that's what drew Shatara to Craig.
Like many in the neighborhood, Craig had witnessed more than his share of violent crimes, including one incident when he was 15 years old.
What happened was CJ was going to school one day. He called his cousin BG. BG was somebody from down in the hood. They pulled up to the shorties on 34th, around 34th Street in the West End, and he ended up getting shot. CJ witnessed who did it, and he was young at the time. He ended up having to go to court over it, and he ended up getting on the stand and telling on who the guy was. So of course, you know, that gets you labeled a snitch in the streets. Everybody turned against him. It messed him up, and it was really impactful for him, man. Changed dude's life, man. I think about that a lot. No one's gonna accept you doing things the right way. What other way is there to do it? And he was kind of forced into it. At a young age, we're talking 14, 15 years old, forced into it.
The shared experience of witnessing a murder strengthened the bond between Craig and Shatara.
I feel like she feel like, hey, I feel your pain. I know where you're coming from. Not sympathizing with him, but empathizing with him. I feel you. I think that was one of the major factors of why she tried so much, because she didn't want to just save him for him. She wanted to save him for her too, for both of them.
While Jacqueline Goldsmith tries to get information about her daughter, Shatara's brother, Morris, also learns about the shooting.
I was at school at the time. I didn't know about anything until I got home. And the first thing that I knew anything about any incident had happened was my mother texted me and said, your sister is dead.
As Louisville police work to uncover the motives behind several shootings in the West End, family members struggle to learn the fate of their loved ones. Believing his sister is dead, Morris Goldsmith decides to head to the crime scene.
And when I got down to 32nd, man, the scene was just, it was crazy. Like, it was like cars put in the middle of the streets, the doors are still open and stuff. Like, the police lines wrapped around everywhere. You can't even get through. So I get to the scene where it actually happened, and the police detectives was like, no, you can't walk through, you can't be over here to do investigating. So I'm mad.
As Morris walks back to the car, an officer follows.
So when we get to the car, that's when the police officer tells me, listen, your sister's not dead. Because I was like, man, is she alive? Is she this? She's that? They said, no, she's in critical condition, but she is alive. She's at the hospital.
Morris races to the hospital and finds a scene that is equally chaotic. Morris asks to see his sister, Shatara. He's told she's in surgery, and in critical condition.
My brother's already up there. And when I say my brother was like breaking down, he was like breaking down so bad because this is his little sister. He breaking down so bad that he's just like crying, like on the floor, crying, hitting the floor, all that. And I had to get my brother and say, hey man, like, gain your composure, you know what I'm saying? We gotta stand up, like we gotta be here, we gotta be strong.
You can feel all the tension in the air. And I was scared that Shatara might not make it. And I was upset that all these people had died. It's kind of hard to explain. It's like you're there, but you're not there. And I remember my stepmother saying, she's gonna be all right, Jackie. We're gonna pray for her.
After several hours of nervous waiting, the Goldsmith family finally gets good news from the doctors. Shatara is out of surgery. It appears she'll make a full recovery. But their happiness is short-lived. Police inform them that Shatara was wounded after killing another woman.
They said Shatara shot the girl, and that's why the police shot her. And I was like, but why would Shatara just do that? You know what I'm saying? And then I said, something's got to be wrong, because it's not something she would just do just to be doing. I said to myself, in order for her to do something like that, something had to really, really, really been wrong.
By now, investigators at the scene speak to witnesses and identify the woman Shatara shot as 24-year-old Makiba Lee. Makiba was born in West Louisville and grew up in the Parkland neighborhood.
She was a happy child and always smiling. She loved to read and play games with family and friends.
After graduating from high school, Makiba began dating Tyson Mims.
Tyson Mims had a bad reputation. Tyson had a long rap sheet of crimes, including drug possession, concealing a weapon, and witness tampering. At one point, he was arrested for murder, but the charges were dropped due to lack of evidence. If Makiba Lee really wanted to make something of her life, then Tyson Mims was the last person she wanted to be involved with.
In late 2010, Makiba found out she was pregnant with Tyson's baby, and in 2011, she gave birth to their son. But fractures soon formed in their relationship.
I think Makiba probably wanted Tyson to settle down a bit, maybe get a regular job and help raise their son. But not many bad boys want to do that. So Makiba decided to break things off for a while so she could focus on being a mom.
Becoming a mother also helped Makiba refocus on her future and becoming a better provider.
With the help of her family, she was preparing to enroll in Jefferson Community and Technical College to earn a degree in nursing.
Back at the scene of the second shooting, detectives struggled to uncover a motive. Detectives go back to the hospital to interview Shatara, but she's not in any condition to answer questions.
She suffered several serious gunshot wounds and lost a lot of blood. And as a result, she was heavily medicated by doctors and slept most of the time. So she was really of no help in the investigation.
Investigators working the first shooting continue questioning witnesses and are finally able to identify the two male victims as Craig Bland Jr. and Tyson Mims.
How did Craig and Tyson end up dead? And did their murders have something to do with Shatara shooting Makiba?
As detectives question more witnesses at the crime scene of the initial shooting, they're finally obtaining enough information to put some of the puzzle pieces into place.
Several witnesses said that Tyson pulled up at CJ's house, hopped out of the car, and pulled out a gun. Tyson had some friends with him. CJ was on the porch also with some friends. And then all of a sudden, people started shooting.
Tyson shot CJ in the stomach, and CJ shot Tyson in the face. Both CJ and Tyson sustained very serious wounds, and both are dead before paramedics arrive on scene.
For Craig Bland, it's a tragic end to a violent life lived on the streets of Louisville. Craig and Shatara had only dated for a few months when the relationship moved to the next level.
Craig was one of her first serious boyfriends. And I think that was her first real adult relationship she had.
CJ and Shatara's bond was magical. She felt compelled to be there for him, no matter what. And she lived by that, no matter what.
Shatara knew she'd found the one and fantasized about spending the rest of her life with Craig.
My sister always wanted to be that girl who was married. She wanted to always have that life. She wanted the American dream. She wanted the white picket fence, that dog, that husband. She wanted all of that.
But her mother felt like Shatara wouldn't find that idyllic life in Louisville.
I remember telling Shatara one time that maybe she should go to Florida, where her aunties is, and finish school down there. Shatara was like, Mama, if I go down there, he might not want to go with me. And I told Shatara, if he loves you, he'll follow you.
But the draw of the street was just too powerful for Craig.
If you stuck in the hood and you stuck in that mind frame where it's just all about money, drugs, guns, it's hard to move past that and do something else because you're so used to it.
Morris tried to convince his sister to focus on what's best for her.
Every once in a while, she would come to me and she would just, have a heart-to-heart with me about what's going on. And I would tell her, like, sis, at the end of the day, you gotta make sure that you okay. Like, I understand that this is someone who you care about, someone you're trying to build a life with, but you gotta make sure that you're okay.
Then, Shatara got news that made leaving Craig even more difficult.
Shatara found out she was pregnant. She told me she was happy, and she was happy with him. So I figured she'd be happy having the baby. She was brought up to be about family. We take care of one another.
She didn't want to leave him and the baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, take the baby from him. She wasn't eager to leave that behind for anything. Leave him behind for anything.
Shatara continued trying to pull Craig from the streets, but instead found herself being sucked into that culture.
My sister was living a double life. Daytime, she's going to school, she's working, she's doing all that. But nighttime, when the sun go down, we in the streets with it. If that meant popping the pills, running around, beating up females we got beef with, she was with it. But she was really like night and day sometimes.
In April 2012, Shatara was arrested for assault and wanton endangerment, but thankfully no one was injured at the time. If Craig couldn't join Shatara to start a new life in Florida, then she was going to join Craig's life in his neighborhood. And eventually, that was going to lead to trouble.
While Shatara was totally committed to Craig, she had crossed paths on the street with Tyson Mims.
My sister was cool with Tyson and CJ. She actually had been knowing Tyson longer than she knew CJ. She came to me and she said, well, I got some stuff going on. She's like, Tyson is telling me that he's gonna do stuff to CJ.
The issue apparently had something to do with a murder that had occurred years prior, where Craig had testified at the trial. Apparently, the perpetrator was somehow related to Tyson Mims, and Mims never got over it.
My sister asked me, she said, bro, what can I do? And I just told her the truth. I was like, there's nothing you can do because it's too deep. There's blood involved in this situation. People have lost their lives. People have been hurt in this situation. I said, but the best thing you can do, baby, is to stand to the side. You gotta let it play out. If you involve yourself in it, it's not gonna be good for nobody.
While detectives have answered many of the questions surrounding the first shooting, they still need to learn why Makiba Lee was killed. And to do that, they know they'll need to speak with Shatara. The shooting of a civilian by a police officer sparks an immediate internal investigation by the Louisville Police Department's Public Integrity Unit.
Anytime there's a police-involved shooting, which means that a police fired their weapon, there's an internal investigation to make sure that the detective or officer has done everything in accordance with the law and policies.
that sometime after the initial shooting, Makiba Lee arrived at the scene and wanted to see her boyfriend.
There was an officer whose job was to prevent anyone from wandering into the scene and possibly contaminating evidence. And he described a woman who approached him and asked, "Who got shot? Who got shot?"
The officer asked the woman who she was, and she said, "That's my baby daddy. Tyson's my baby daddy."
The officer was adamant that he couldn't let her through, and she became angry and started screaming, "This ain't over."
The officer watched Makiba, who was with a friend, walk away and disappear into the crowd. A few minutes later, Makiba returned and again asked about Tyson.
Makiba got extremely upset and started yelling at the crowd, screaming profanity, saying things like, "F you, this is some BS, this ain't over, F you, payback." Obviously, seeing the father of her child was an extremely traumatic event for Makiba, and you can certainly understand why she was so upset.
Makiba and her friend walked toward a large grassy area at the corner of 32nd and Greenwood, right where the WAVE news van was parked.
The officers see a crowd of people begin to gather in that area, and they worry that a fight is going to break out. So he grabs his partner and starts heading towards the field to try to prevent any violence.
Suddenly, another woman entered the picture. It was Shatara Goldsmith, who had come to the area in search of her boyfriend, Craig.
Shatara learns that Craig is dead, and like Makiba, she becomes extremely upset. Makiba's screaming at the crowd that she wants payback or retribution, and Shatara likely feels the same way.
Shatara had a license to carry a concealed weapon, so she always kept her gun on her.
It is not completely clear if Shatara knows Makiba, but Makiba is making enough ruckus for Shatara to be able to tell that she is related to the guy that killed her boyfriend. As the officers approach the grassy area, one of the officers see Shatara hold a gun up in the air and point it at Makiba. There are over 30 people in the general area, and they scatter everywhere. Of course, officers are trained to respond differently than regular people.
The officers screamed verbal commands for the woman to drop the gun.
The two officers are saying, drop the weapon, police." At the same time, they are lining up a shot to take out the shooter if they have to.
Shatara stood above her, continuing to fire bullets into her body at nearly point-blank range.
Everything just clicked off, and she pulled that gun out, and she shot every bullet she had into that girl.
She just keeps firing at Makiba. The officers, they describe it as an execution. One of the officers, he maneuvers his body so that he can have a clean shot without hitting an innocent bystander.
The officer hit Shatara in the leg. Suddenly, she then turns toward him, her gun pointed straight at his chest.
The officer immediately realizes that he is in her sight, so he fires 2 more. One officer tried to help Makiba, but she is shot multiple times and dies on the scene.
Shatara, in intense pain, asked the officer for help.
Shatara asked the officer, "Do you think I'm gonna lose my baby?"
Shatara was only 2 months pregnant, so she wasn't really showing, but she was even more so concerned because her boyfriend was gone.
Shatara tells the officer that if he gets her help, she would tell him exactly what happened.
A few minutes later, the ambulance arrives and they put her on a gurney. But the officers, they are so busy that they don't have time to talk to her before she goes to the hospital.
The internal investigation clears Louisville police officers of wrongdoing, determining that they were justified in using force to disarm Shatara.
So Shatara just murdered a woman in cold blood and was also a risk to many people nearby. So that was the account of the police officers. But the question is, will Shatara tell a different story?
After fatally shooting Makiba Lee, Shatara Goldsmith is herself shot by a Louisville police officer. The day after the shooting, Shatara is questioned at the hospital by detectives. But she claims she doesn't remember anything about the shooting.
She basically said that all she remembered was Craig being on the ground. And then she heard someone saying she would be next. And then the next thing she remembered was bullets hitting her. She absolutely could not remember anything involving the shooting of Makeba.
Who knows where her mind was at the time, you know what I'm saying? She was probably so devastated that she probably wasn't even thinking at all or thinking right at all.
When someone goes through an extremely traumatic experience, it can cause them to react and do something they wouldn't normally do. I believe that day when she saw Craig's dead body lying on the ground, she realized that she wasn't going to get the perfect life that she so much wanted. And so she lashed out at the only thing she had available to her, the girlfriend of the man she believed to have killed Craig. She didn't really kill for her man as much as she did because of her man.
The trauma of being shot causes Shatara to lose her pregnancy.
She was highly, highly, highly upset because Shatara doesn't have any children, and that would have been her first child.
3 days after the shooting, Shatara is released from the hospital and booked into jail. She's charged with murder and wanton endangerment.
And I told her, like, sis, you know, I don't condone what you did. I don't condone taking life. I'm gonna ride in this car with you. I'm on your side. Right, wrong, good or bad, whatever. And she told me, like, she's not proud of it. She's not proud. It's not something that she walks around with that she feels like she was justified for. And I want to make this clear for everyone. She don't feel justified for it. She don't feel like she was right for it, any of that.
On Monday, May 21st, 4 days after the shootings, a funeral for Makeba Lee takes place at Portland Memorial Baptist Church in West Louisville.
Attending Makeba's funeral was as sad as it could be, and you felt the weight in that space where her services were happening at. The weight was deep, the loss is deep, and people's hearts went out to our entire family.
There were concerns amongst the family and community in general that there might be more violence, perhaps retaliation against the Lee family. And so there was a very heavy police presence outside of the funeral.
Unfortunately, over time, because of the redundancy of violent crime acts, the police presence at funeral homes has been kind of a staple in Metro Louisville now, because funeral providers were asked for that. Families were asked for that, and they deserve that, to try to have some sense of peace in regards to what has happened to their loved one.
It's a scene that's repeated in the funerals for Craig Bland Jr. and Tyson Mims.
When you look at the Lee family, the Bland family, the Mims family, the Goldsmith family, when you look at that situation, from my perspective, you gotta look at it from a perspective of devastation across the board. So all you can do is be sympathetic to the constant unfortunate cycle that we've been subjected to when these things happen, of trying to figure out when will we see better days.
In March 2015, Shatara enters an Alford plea to the charges against her.
An Alford plea means that you don't take responsibility for what happened, but you understand that there's enough evidence to show that you were responsible.
For some, the plea raises eyebrows.
There was enough evidence of what happened and what she did. Everybody saw it. But the court system in this country works in weird ways that are hard to understand. There were a lot of people involved in that violence, and a lot of those people live in that neighborhood, and that violence continues. So even though a lot of people saw it, that doesn't mean after the fact that they felt safe saying what they saw.
The Commonwealth attorney said that if they would have took this case to trial, that they probably would convict her of manslaughter instead of murder.
Shatara is sentenced to 25 years in prison. with the possibility of parole after 20.
Makiba's mother, she was so frustrated about the light sentence for such a cold-blooded murder that she called it a slap on the wrist.
I don't think Shatara got a slap on the wrist. I don't think she got a slap on the wrist at all. And I understand that once your child dies, that child is not coming back, but there are circumstances to everything. And I know that Shatara didn't do it purposely, that she snapped, that was something that she didn't mean to do. And so I don't think 25 years of her life or 20 years of her life is a slap on the wrist. 20 years is a whole lifetime for some folks.
At the hearing, Shatara does take responsibility for her actions, while continuing to claim she doesn't really know why she killed Makiba Lee.
Makiba's death was completely senseless. She didn't do anything wrong. The only thing she was doing was mourning the death of her man, so she had no reason to be killed by Shatara.
Shatara's very remorseful, and she's very sorry. She's sorry for Makiba. She's sorry for Makiba's child that is raised without a mother. And she's sorry that all of that happened. We've had conversations where she was like, Mama, if I could do it all over again, I just would have went to Florida and none of this would have happened.
Shatara is serving her time at Kentucky's Correctional Institution for Women, Pewee Valley. But her popularity among prisoners doesn't prevent her from getting into trouble. In fact, it seems to add to it.
Every time something goes on, they always making it like Shatara is the one who's causing all these problems. They put her in the hole a lot and everything, because she is opinionated and she tells them, you know, that she's a human being and she has rights. And when she tries to stick up for her rights, then they want to stick her in the hole all the time.
Those who understand 2012 can never erase it from their mind. It will go down as one of the saddest, heartbreaking days in Louisville Metro history. Simple as that. There's no other way to describe it. Not from my perspective.
This was one of the deadliest and most violent days that we had experienced. And so after that, the mayor put together a task force to deal with the crime in the city and in the Parkland neighborhood, in those neighborhoods that repeatedly see the crime, pulled together a lot of members of the community to come up with some solutions to stop it.
But solutions have proved elusive.
So did 2012 and that earth-shattering devastation change the behavior? Not necessarily so. Because the evidence is really strong right now that we're in a deeper hole, even compared to back then with the data and the numbers. Diseases are not easily cured, right? Violent crime situations are not going to be easily cured. That does not mean you don't keep treating the situation. We have to keep treating it. We have to keep putting resources towards it.
We'll never find solutions as long as people will continue to take the law in their own hands. The cycle of retribution needs to be stopped. Shatara may have thought she was doing this for Craig, but nothing she could do would bring him back. Instead, she ruined her life and that of Makiba's child, who will grow up without a mother or a father.
First loves can be very special relationships. But trying to change others to match our vision for them is a fool's errand. And the results can, under the wrong conditions, lead to tragic consequences.